This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's begin. So before I start, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Mubin Jukaku, working as the technology head at Emerging Information Technologies since last 10 years. So I'm having more than 15 years of work experience, primarily in the area of document workflow management and developing device drivers and embedded system applications, as well as developing IoT applications. So in my tenure of 15 years, I got an opportunity to work in different technology areas, and I have worked in companies like HP and Novell prior to joining Emergy as a technology head. So I have with me Adil, who's the hardware head at Emergy. Hi Adil, you can say hi.
Hi Mubin, am I audible?
Hi, yeah, you're audible. So we have Adil with me. So we will be co-presenting the workshop for today. So just to brief you about today's workshop. So today's workshop is about developing a complete IoT solution using Mongoose OS. So we'll focus on how we can build a IoT application by understanding the different software components in it. So we'll get into the details slowly. So before that, I would like to request you that in case you have any questions, you can post your questions in chat window. So this is going to be a quick introduction to IoT solution. If you are not familiar with some of these concepts, then you can discuss, you can put a message in the chat window, or you can talk to us after the session. Also, we can help you in basically clarifying your doubts or getting better understanding of the topics. So let me start in that case. Any questions you can put in the chat window. So the session will start with an overview about what is IoT and architecture. Then we'll have a look at the implementation details and a demo. So I hope all of you are familiar with the term IoT, and you have come across different use cases in your real life about how IoT is revolutionized, how IoT has become a revolution in our life, right? So before the advent of IoT, we all were using solutions in a constrained manner, wherein we used to think that only computers can communicate with each other, right? And from that perspective, we used to see how we can build applications or solution in the IT industry. Now, this perspective has changed a lot, primarily because it's not just the human beings or computers who communicate with each other using the internet. Anything which is a living thing or a non-living thing can exchange information or communicate with each other using the advent of IoT, right? So I guess you got an overview about what is IoT in the last session, last 2 days of workshop session. So I will not be going into details of what is IoT. Rather, we will focus on how to build an IoT solution by understanding the IoT architecture to start with. Then we'll have a look at a specific use case or scenario, and we will move on to the implementation details. So before we look into IoT architecture, can somebody tell me what is IoT? Can somebody define what is IoT? So Ajay Kumar has a question: what is major difference in IoT and embedded? Okay. So Internet of Things, can somebody define what is Internet of Things according to what you understood? Okay, Ronak says interconnected devices, true. Saurabh says operate, start things through microcontroller. Okay. smart, okay, things which run through cloud computing. That's what Bhargav says. Yes, says anything that we can use with internet. All right. Things which are connected to internet. Okay. Saujanya says lot IoT is connected with living things, non-living things without any physical media. True. Okay, that's one possibility. Okay. Shujyoti says the things which is connected to internet like 4G LTE. All right. So let me show you the definition of IoT from Gartner. So it says the network of physical objects, right? We have a network of physical objects. So this object can be a living thing or a non-living thing that contains embedded technology. So these objects will use embedded technology to communicate and interact with their internal states or external environment. So this is kind of a textbook definition of what IoT is. Now different people can have different meanings derived out of it. So let's take the example of a chair, right? The chair is an object. So when you talk about a chair, this chair as such does not communicate with anybody, right? So chair will not communicate with anybody. So we can sit on a chair, but can the chair communicate? Can you make a chair, or can you consider a chair to be an IoT device in some way? Is it possible to transform a chair into an IoT device? Okay, so I'll just give a background on why I'm asking this question. So let's assume, right, you are sitting, like you got a job and you're having like hectic time working in your office, right? And let's say you need to work for 8 to 10 hours a day. And in this basically span of life, especially in the IT field, we see that a lot of software engineers are prone to backaches, right? You might have come across your friends or your seniors, right? So especially in Bangalore with bad roads, or in any basically city which has bad roads, we are prone to basically backaches. So one of the reasons why this happens is because people sit for a long time on a chair, and we tend to not follow the ergonomics of how the posture should be. Now, this is an opportunity to think for, I would say, right? So we have an opportunity here wherein the drawbacks of a person not following certain rules or getting engaged in their day-to-day life, right, can make things worse for his health. Now, what do you do? So there is a company who basically came up with an idea that, okay, we can perform some checks. So what is the check we can perform? They connected some sensors on the chair, right? You have a chair and you can connect some sensors on the chair. Now, I'll show maybe a high level use case, right? How a non-living thing which does not have any significance can be used to leverage to build a business idea, right? So in terms of IoT, when you talk about IoT, it is about Internet of Things. We know that it's more of basically ideas, I would say, right? So we have a simple chair here. Yeah, I'm not good at drawing, but I'll put a chair here, right? So this chair can be connected to different sensors, right? So these sensors will have the position of the sensors are important. So you have sensors at various positions which will give inputs in such a way that it checks for posture, right? Plus, it also checks how long you're sitting. And these information, for example, can be sent to the user maybe via mobile application, right? It may not be directly sending it, maybe the cloud gets involved, or maybe it could be through Bluetooth, or it could be through Wi-Fi, and so on. And you can run maybe a lot of analytics. For example, okay, you've been sitting for continuously for 2 hours without a break. Then you can trigger, for example, some message to the app, a notification, right? You get a notification, app notification, etc. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, so you can see this use case, right? We have a use case over here, right? A chair. A chair is nothing, in fact, right? We can just, it's a physical device. But a chair becomes an IoT device when you think of ideas here. What is the idea you thought of it? Yeah. So we can give information. We can give information or inputs to the user about whether, about his basically seating or sitting basically ergonomics, right? So is he following and the guidelines which any person should follow? Is he sitting continuously for long hours? What about his posture, etc.? So there are companies who manufacture such chairs. Now, is this IoT application? Can we consider this to be an IoT application? Yes, we can consider this to be an IoT application. So what all things comes into picture here? We have a sensor, right? If you look at the components of this, we have chair. So chair itself is a device. On this chair, first of all, we have a sensor, right? Or sensors will be there. Now, the sensors will send data, right? How does it going to send data? Through maybe Bluetooth interface, maybe through Wi-Fi interface, possibly, right? And if you need a Wi-Fi, maybe it will communicate maybe through a router at your home or office, right? Home office router. Then cloud gets involved because data should be stored permanently, maybe, and you may want to access it from multiple devices, right? It's possible that you are having 2 phones, or you want to access it through web, right? So data should get stored inside cloud. Plus, maybe you may want to have a application, a mobile app also, so that you can view information, right? So a lot of components are getting involved here, so that you can give a user a usable application. So this is a use case. So once you have a use case, the next thing is how to basically go about the implementation of this use case. Let me go into the implementation details, or specifically, let's talk about a high-level architecture of IoT. Here you can see a reference architecture for IoT. Now, different IoT solutions will use different reference architectures or reference architectures as such. So because the scenarios are different, the components are different, the communication methodology is different, etc. I'm showing a very simple use case here, so which is in fact given by Microsoft. It's not necessary that we follow the same reference architecture. So let me explain this, how this reference architecture works. All right. So here we have devices which are IP capable devices. So typically you have 3 layers over here. One is the device connectivity layer. Second is the cloud layer. So this is what we see is a cloud layer. And on one side we have like a device connectivity and device layer. So you have many devices which are capable of sensing data, right? We have devices which sense data, right? They sense data. And this data can be in any form. So I don't want to get into details. Like you might have come across something called as XML data. You might have heard about something called as JSON data. So devices sense data from various sensors, and this data will be sent to the cloud platform. So data which is received by the cloud platform can be used to store into a database, for example. It can be used for processing, like you can do some processing by using artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. and you can basically filter the data, and you can also basically send this meaningful data to a application like mobile application or cloud or a web application. So at a very high level, devices sense data from various sensors, and these data will be sent to the cloud IoT platform. For example, cloud IoT platforms, we have AWS IoT Cloud Platform, we have Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform, and so on. So there are several big players in the cloud platform area. So we can use any of the cloud platform providers to build the IoT application as such. So one side of the architecture is the device, other side is the cloud, and one more basically layer is the web application side or the mobile application side. Now, importantly, we see one thing. There are multiple basically layers of communication that's happening here, right? Communication happens from device to cloud. Then within the cloud, there are different basically software components. These components talk to each other. So in IoT, communication plays a very important role here. So reason is you may have an infrastructure wherein you'll have data coming at a rate of millions of bytes per second possible, right? So if you look at industry like automotive industry, let's say a company like Toyota or a company like Maruti Suzuki. So these cars nowadays are connected to the cloud, right? So we have like connectivity built into these cars. So we have, for example, devices, hundreds of millions of devices which send data to the cloud. And this data comes at a very high rate. Now, if our cloud basically platform is not capable enough to handle this data, then the application will fail, right? So connectivity plays an important role in cloud applications. So when you talk about connectivity, there are several protocols which can be used. For example, you have protocols like HTTP, you have protocols like MQTT, etc. So these protocols are typically used to exchange data between device to cloud. We'll talk about MQTT maybe briefly after some time when you talk about implementation. But I'm trying to tell you that communication plays an important role in communication in IoT architecture. There are two types of devices. Now, when you talk about IoT devices, right, there are two types of devices. So one type of device is IP capable. So this device which are IP capable. And there is another type of device which is legacy devices, which is not IP capable. So can somebody tell me what do you make out from this IP capable and non-IP capable? Does it really matter? Can non-IP capable devices communicate with the cloud? Is it possible? Is it possible for non-IP capable devices to communicate with the cloud? Let's say a device can send data through serial port, but device does not have Ethernet or Wi-Fi. How can the device communicate with the cloud? You can talk on your mic also, not a problem if you're not able to chat. I'm not getting any answers. Okay, protocols we can use, true. So let me briefly explain what the question is. Like we have a device, right? You have a device 1, which has IP, internet connection. IP when I say internet capability, right? And you have, let's say, device 2, which doesn't have no internet access, no IP. IP is not supported, internet is not supported. Now this device which has IP capability or internet capability can directly communicate with the cloud, right? Possible. It can use protocols like TCP/IP or HTTP, etc. It can exchange data. Now, what about this device, right? It cannot send data to the cloud. What do you do? Can somebody tell me how can it communicate with the cloud? Let's say it can send data over serial port. Okay, it can send data over serial port. In such cases, we use something called as a gateway. The solution is what? To use something called as a gateway, and this is called as an IoT gateway. Right. All right. And this IoT gateway can communicate with the cloud. So IoT gateway is kind of a broker. I hope you understand what is a broker or a translator. What does a translator do? Let's say I know only English, but I want to communicate in, let's say, French. So I need a translator. A translator should be there who can communicate, who can translate from one language to another. Similarly here, you have basically data coming in serial port, right? So data is coming on serial port. So this data, you need to send it to the cloud at times. And this data can be in any form. Data which are coming can be in one form. And you need to send data in another form maybe. So you will use an IoT gateway to get data from devices, and these data will be sent to the cloud using some protocol. For example, we can use protocols like HTTP. Right? Can somebody tell me what is the full form of HTTP? Where is it used? What does HTTP stand for? And primarily, where is this protocol used? Yeah, hypertext. Ram says hypertext transfer protocol. Yeah, it's used for communicating between a web browser and a web server, right? In internet, for example, when you open a browser like Google Chrome or Firefox or IE, you type in a URL, the data exchange between the browser and the server happens through HTTP protocol. Now, in terms of communicating between IoT gateway and cloud, we use either HTTP or MQTT. Okay, there are several other protocols like CoAP, right, etc., which can also be used. So I will limit my discussion here because this topic is quite vast. I just wanted to give an overview about the architecture of IoT. So in summary, this is what happens, right? You have several devices. A lot of devices are there. You have several devices. So these devices can communicate in two methods. They can directly communicate. Direct, send data to cloud. When I say cloud, it could be something like AWS, IoT, or Microsoft Azure, and so on. Second, we have devices which are not IP capable. So they can, for example, communicate to a IoT gateway. And IoT gateway can forward the data to the cloud. Now, generally, it's recommended to send the data to the IoT gateway because you can perform some additional intermediate operations to filter the data out, etc., and so on. So this is high-level architecture of IoT. And the communication here between the device and the gateway can happen through various protocols like UART, right? You can use like Ethernet, you can use Bluetooth, right? And several other legacy protocols. And the communication from the gateway to the cloud happens using HTTP or MQTT protocol. Now the cloud can host other things. For example, it can send data to a mobile application, or you can access the data from the cloud by using a web application. That is from the user part, right? This is the user perspective. I hope it's clear how basically an IoT application looks like from a bigger picture, and how the communication between device to gateway and gateway to cloud, as well as cloud to basically mobile application happens. Now, communication between cloud to again the mobile application can be done through HTTP or MQTT or several other protocols also we can use. Anybody has any questions here? No? All right. Okay, so Ronak is asking what is MQTT. Maybe I'll just give a brief overview about MQTT later. So for now, let me move on to the next slide. Okay, Saurabh is asking, is there any programming required for IoT? I would say yes. Okay, programming is required for IoT in multiple places, in fact. Okay, so in terms of programming, right? So we have hardware and software development involved here. Okay, so when I say hardware, it means it's mostly hardware and software. One is on the device side. So on the device side, when you talk about device sides, you are building embedded IoT applications, in fact. Okay, I think sometimes like somebody asks a question, okay, what is the difference between embedded application and embedded IoT application, right? So only difference is that when you talk about embedded applications, it's not necessary that it exchanges data with the IoT gateway or the cloud. There is not much basically data exchange involved with the cloud as such. For example, you can take a washing machine. Okay, example of embedded application could be a washing machine, an automatic washing machine, right? So does it require it to communicate with the cloud platform? No, right? Washing machine does not require you to communicate with the cloud platform. Yeah, you can set a timer, you can configure the program, it will automatically basically wash the basically clothes, and it will notify you when the washing has completed. Now here you don't need IoT because it runs as a standalone embedded application. Same could apply for certain other devices. Okay, Sunita is asking, sir, we can use ThinkSpeak to upload data to cloud. ThinkSpeak is a cloud platform, in fact, yeah. So ThinkSpeak is an IoT cloud platform. The device can be configured to send data to ThinkSpeak platform also, similar to AWS IoT Cloud. So this is an example of embedded application. So what about embedded IoT application? Can somebody give an example? Berenice says, washing machine for commercial purpose, we can use IoT. True, correct. For example, you can have a washing machine for commercial use, which, for example, is used in, let's say, hotel rooms. Like you will find places in hotels, big hotels and hostels, for example, wherein you can have an option to basically use the washing machine on a model of pay per use kind of a thing, right? So I can put some money into the washing machine, coins or money, and once the washing is done, maybe you should get an alert, right? In such case, you can make the washing machine IoT enabled. So that's good example. So you can have a commercial washing machine which is IoT enabled. Again, I spoke in the beginning, IoT is about ideas, right? It's about ideas here, right? So washing machine,
Hello,
this is a standalone washing machine. Hello. Yeah.
Are you getting my voice?
Yeah, Shankar, tell me.
ATM machine is IoT or embedded? Because we are taking money from ATM. The money transaction, all things going to updated on our bank system. So this one is IoT or only embedded?
So it's not a typical use case of IoT, I would say. Okay, because it is not an embedded system. It's not a basic. It's not the use case, can fall into the embedded use case, but I would say it's more of general purpose system. I would say it's a more of a desktop which is configured only to run an ATM application. So if we have multiple views here. So from my view, I would say it is not a IoT device. You can call it as a full-fledged system asset. It's a desktop. It's a desktop which runs a specific software, I would call it. If you want to think of a embedded view, you can also think of it like an embedded system, which only basically is used for performing ATM transactions. It's much more complex system, which can be used by users to withdraw money or check bank balances, but it's a full-fledged basically network application, I would say. Okay, it may not fall under the use case of IoT, just an IoT application. It's a bigger application, I would say. It's not just an IoT application.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, IoT basically components are involved here. For example, ATM, you have to basically read the ATM card, etc. Those things are involved here. So I'll maybe continue. There could be various other basically examples of IoT application, right? For example, nowadays people are using health applications, right? Health monitoring applications are there. Then here are applications which are there in your automotive systems, right? You have applications in automotive systems. There are a lot of applications available. Traffic control system, for example, it's a very good example of IoT applications. Nowadays, for example, traffic is automatically controlled, and you can avoid traffic congestions. You can also notify that something wrong has happened, right? You can also basically penalize people by checking their number plates. Now, I think this technology has become much more common now, right? Somebody is violating zebra crossings. What happens? There is a high basically resolution camera. It's going to take a picture of the number plate, and you'll get a basically SMS on your phone. You'll get a message telling that you have violated traffic rule. These are good examples of IoT. Home automation too. Home automation is also a very good example. So I can see a lot of people are aware of what is an IoT application. I'm getting messages. Okay, Sujyoti says smart grid, true, right? And home automation, CCTV, an embedded application or IoT application. CCTV, if it's connected to the internet, yes, it becomes an IoT application. That's also an IoT application. Okay, any other question which I did not answer? I can see a lot of questions coming up, answers as well. Industrial automation, that's true. Smart dustbins, good. Okay, so these are good examples of IoT applications. So we understand what is meant by an IoT application. Now let's see how we can build an IoT application. Automatic door, okay, whether it's an IoT application or embedded application, it depends again. If it's connected to, it's like a standalone basically automatic door which is there in your building, it could be an embedded application. Let's say you want to remotely control that automatic door, right? So in such case, it should be IoT enabled. Fire system, software embedded or IoT? Okay. So fire system, again you can have an embedded system which is standalone. Then you can call it as a pure embedded system. But let's say you can monitor that embedded system, or you can control the embedded system. You get notifications maybe through cloud, then it becomes an IoT application. So the difference, I would put it like this, right? The difference between embedded, pure embedded, okay, or non-IoT embedded, I would put it, right? Non-IoT embedded and embedded IoT. Is what is the difference between non-embedded IoT and embedded IoT? So it's about, can somebody tell me what is the difference? Oh, I would say there is a small difference. What is that small difference? Embedded system can also sense data, right? You can control the device, etc. When you talk about embedded IoT devices, the term IoT comes into the picture, right? Internet of Things. They are connected. So they are connected from anywhere. That is a major difference, I would say. It's about connecting from anywhere, right? So if you have, for example, a application which is accessible maybe only from your house or from your office, then you may not want to call it as a IoT embedded system. Yeah, it's an embedded system, but maybe not be an IoT embedded system. So that is a major difference. You can connect from anywhere. That's the difference between a non-embedded IoT and embedded IoT system. True. So Saujanya says, yeah, we can use anywhere. It's IoT. We can remotely control it. Saurabh says, yeah. Kritika, true. Now let's go back. Let me switch to the slide here. So I gave a use case of a chair. Okay, there could be several other use cases which we can use to understand an IoT solution. So another use case could be that of a locker system, right? If you have something which is highly secure, maybe kept in a bank or a strong room, then you need to have an additional security feature built into the system so that you can monitor if some intruder is coming, or if it's a normal, if it's a authenticated person who is accessing your safe, for example. So let's say you have some critical resource like money or gold kept in a long locker room. In that case, what is going to happen? You want to ensure that only authorized person can enter. Now there is a possibility that some thief can intrude into the system. So in such case, what you can do, you can have some devices which will maybe take the picture of that person or send an alert, etc., to people who are responsible for managing these banks, including the bank manager, or it can notify, send an SOS to the police, etc. So here we have a scenario wherein security is a key thing, right, in terms of IoT. So when you talk about security based applications, let's say you have a use case of this locker room, right? You can build a simple system thinking that, okay, maybe the thief is not smart. For example, you can have a sensor which is going to only sense the details of who is going to enter by maybe capturing a picture, etc. Or you can have complex systems like face recognition systems, for example, what Saujanya mentioned. So you can capture the person's face if it's visible, or get a retina scan and maybe send this information to the police, etc. So let's keep the use case simple here. So let's say you're having a secure room, right? So very simple thing you can do is maybe you can have a motion sensor, right? You can have a motion sensor. Now it's understandable that okay, when the bank is open and security is available, we may not care much, right? Because okay, security is there, maybe only authorized person can enter the room. Let's say it's at night time, nobody is there, right? That's when thieves come, right? And somebody basically enters the secure room. What do you do? It's dark maybe, right? And you cannot, maybe let's say the person bypassed the system and somehow entered the secure room, and you're not able to click a picture also. It's possible, right? Maybe he has night vision cameras, etc. So you can make use of a very simple device like a motion sensor. So motion sensors, what they do is they sense objects, humans or animals, for example, right, using heat. Like, for example, you have something called as PIR motion sensor. So you can have a PIR motion sensor which will detect person heat, and when there is heat, for example, it sends a notification, an SOS. Maybe SOS can be sent to maybe the bank representatives, whoever is in charge, can send an SOS to the police, right? And so on. So just wanted to show, okay, this is a use case, and this use case to implement, we can make use of sensors here. We can send notifications by using maybe SMS through maybe internet as well. Maybe you have a alert app as well, right? This is a simple use case. Now let's see how we can further go ahead and build this solution. So there is also a possibility that you want to securely monitor each locker. Then what do? Inside the device, inside the locker, you can put, for example, some sensor which will basically send the notification as soon as you open it. So there are several use cases. So all these use cases make use of sensors to sense the change, right? There is a change, it's going to sense that change, and these devices maybe will communicate through a central IoT gateway, and this central IoT gateway may be connected via Bluetooth, and once the data is available in the gateway can communicate to the cloud, which maybe sends an alert to the user application through SOS, right? SOS could be anything. So devices, typically we call it as node in terms of IoT. In IoT terminology, devices are called as nodes. So nodes exchange data to the cloud through an access point. Now let's see what a node can look like, right? So in terms of basically real implementation, a node could be a simple device which is IP enabled. For example, in our case, in our workshop, we are going to use a device called as Node MCU device. Node MCU comes in two forms. One is ESP8266 Node MCU, other is ESP32 Node MCU. So you can use any of these devices or nodes as an end node. So when you say end node, these devices can sense data from sensors attached to it, to the pins of the device. It can monitor the sensors, and if required, it can send alerts to the cloud platform. So let me give some more details about this Node MCU device. If you look at the architecture of Node MCU, ESP32 specifically, so it comes from a company called as Espressif Systems. So it's a 32-bit core, and it has good amount of RAM. For example, it has 520 kilobytes of RAM, and it's ultra low power. So one of the important characteristics of IoT applications is that it should not consume more power. For example, you are going to run it on battery, right? If you want to run it on battery, it should consume low power. So there could be devices which run, for example, on battery for years together, maybe 1 year or even 5 years. So important thing is to ensure that battery consumption is very less. And these devices can communicate through wireless channels, including Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Other supported interfaces are USB. So USB interface used to program the controller as well as for debugging. Then on board, it has an LED. It also has a switch. So it's a very simple device which has less physical interfaces inbuilt, but it can connect external interfaces. For example, we have several GPIOs. Using these several GPIOs, we can interface other sensors. That's what people mostly do. Now, just to summarize on the peripherals, we have USB interface, we have a power LED, we have a serial USB converter chip, which is used to flash the device. Then we have a reset key. We also have a boot key used to program the device. We'll see how we can program the device. Then we have a user LED and GPIOs, which are exposed as pins. Now, in terms of development, now how can you program this is the question. So have anybody done programming on Arduino or any embedded systems? So how can you program such a device? What do you need to do? What is that we need to know to program it? Shahbaz says yes. Sunita says yes, I did. Okay. ESP8266 is a Wi-Fi module or not? Sunita, yeah, it's a Wi-Fi module. true. So in terms of programming, yeah, yes says using Arduino IDE we can do it, true. Okay, there are several options available. I'll list some of the options available, but most of you would have done it using Arduino. So Arduino is a simple development environment to program devices which are Arduino compliant. So there are several devices which are Arduino basically compliant. Commonly seen one is Arduino Uno, Node MCU. All these are Arduino basically compliant devices. Programming can be done using C, C++ in the Arduino platform. Now, we have several choices as trends in IoT development, right, are getting evolved. So I list some of the available platform choices for developing applications using Node MCU. So Arduino is one of the choices people prefer to begin with. Arduino is simple to use. It has rich set of libraries. There are several other options available. For example, Espressif, the company which manufactures ESP32 and ESP86s, have their own development platform. You might have heard about Node MCU Lua. So Lua is a scripting language. You can use Lua to program the system. And the one which you're going to use in this workshop is called as Mongoose OS. Okay, have anybody heard about Mongoose OS before? No, all right, no problem. Okay, no issues. Okay, apart from Mongoose OS, you can also write code using Python. Python is also one of the programming languages used to develop embedded application nowadays. Python is easy to learn, and Node MCU supports MicroPython, which is a scaled down version of Python. So we are going to use Mongoose OS in this workshop to program the device. Okay, we're going to build applications using Mongoose OS, and we will try to basically connect with the device sensors on the device. We'll also try to send data to the cloud using MQTT protocol. Now, I'll give a brief introduction to what is Mongoose OS. So by the way, all of you know what is an OS, right? Or what is the reason? So to build an embedded application, do we need an OS or it's not required? Let's say somebody asks you to develop an embedded system. You need to write the software. Do we need an OS or it's not required? It's mandatory or optional? And when will you use it, for example, if it's required? So somebody says yes. Okay, Satish says yes, we need OS. Resource allocation, we need. When you talk about Arduino, let's take the example of Arduino, right? Is OS used or it's without an OS? We can write an Arduino program, flash it into the device. So Arduino is an OS or it's not an OS? So Shahbaz says no, it's not an OS, right? Anybody else? No. Okay. So Arduino doesn't use any operating system. So when you don't use an OS, there is a terminology used. What is it called as? It's called bare metal programming. Okay, the terminology which is used is called as bare metal programming. So in bare metal programming, if you have done something called as PIC microcontroller programming, or if you program the 8051 controller, we directly write a C program and flash it, right? We create a hex file and then we flash it. So such basically programming practices, we use it because the system is not very complicated. But if the system is complicated, it's preferred to use a dedicated embedded OS for it. Now Mongoose OS, okay, so name basically says that, so it's an open source operating system for IoT. So this operating system is designed to build what? IoT applications. So initially it started as an embedded web server to begin with, but later it expanded to an IoT platform. And you can program in C, C++, or JavaScript. So how many of you already know C here? All of you are familiar with C, at least the basics? Yes? Okay. So Shahbaz, Ronak, Krutika says yes, Akshay. All right. Yes. All right. Nirupama says yes. Ratish says yes. Sunita says yes. Okay. What's one of the prerequisites, right? Okay, Bhakti, Jalla, okay, all are saying they know at least some basic understanding of C. So when you talk about embedded programming, C is one of the most preferred programming language. But Mongoose OS provides a choice. You can use C, you can use C++, you can use JavaScript. So I hope you have heard about JavaScript. Where is it used? Anybody can they tell me where is JavaScript used? What type of applications? Yeah, Ajay Kumar says web applications it's used, right? So JavaScript is used in web design, right? Application design. All right. So JavaScript is commonly used in web application development. For example, if you want to make interactive web applications are built using JavaScript. Is it something very complex or is it similar to C? Have anybody done it? So I would say JavaScript is not a complex programming language. It has a syntax similar to that of C, I would say. Okay, it is similar to C. And one of the advantages of JavaScript is that you can write applications very easily. So writing a program in C may take more lines of code, whereas writing a program in JavaScript will take less lines of code. It's easy to program, easy to learn, etc. So we will use JavaScript in our workshop. The code will look somewhat similar to C, so don't get surprised when I use JavaScript here. So I'll use JavaScript because the code is easy. We will be writing less lines of code. So somebody who does not have a background in JavaScript, don't worry about it. So Shabas is asking a question, what about compiling time taken? So JavaScript is an interpreted language, it's not a compiled language. So in our case, we are going to use it for prototyping only. What does prototyping mean? What is meant by prototyping? We're not using it for production. We'll use it only for prototyping. So prototyping, can anybody tell me? Sample build. Ram says sample build. Okay. Anybody else? What is meant by prototype? Barney says demo. Okay. Demo like kind of, right? So when you want to build a product, before building the product, yeah, initial development, smaller version of actual thing, Yash, Ronak, Shabas, concept proof. So before we build the complete product, it's good to build a prototype and show a demo to the customer. Why do we have to do that? Why do we do that? Why do we build a prototype before building the actual product? Yeah, for Expo we can do it. Yeah, Bharani, that's true. To build confidence, a good answer, right? To build the confidence. So we need to basically check whether we can go ahead with the solution by building a prototype. Plus we can show it to the customer, right? We can say, okay, see, this is how it's going to maybe look like. And we are able to build an initial prototype. So we can go ahead. Maybe once the customer sees the prototype, maybe he can pay you some advance money also, right? Okay, you've done something. I feel you can do it, right? They get confidence in you. So we can use JavaScript here for prototyping, not for production. Understood? So Mongoose OS is an IoT OS, an IoT platform. We can build IoT applications using C, C++, and JavaScript, and it works on any operating system. Okay, if you're going to develop on Windows, Linux, Mac, doesn't matter. All right. So other thing is that it supports different microcontrollers, including ST micro controllers like STM32, TI supported basically MCU CC3200, and Espressif basically microcontrollers like ESP32 and ESP8266. It has good support for hardware. Okay, these are the supported hardwares. And the most important reason why we are using Mongoose OS is inbuilt cloud integration it has. Unlike Arduino does not directly basically support integration with the cloud. You make use of additional libraries, configure it, and use it. Whereas in case of Mongoose OS, it has built-in support for IoT cloud integration. So it supports integration with AWS IoT, Microsoft Azure, Google IoT Core, IBM Watson IoT, and you can also use your own private MQTT backends. So have you heard about these platforms before? Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google IoT Core, etc. There are several others which I did not mention, like ThinkSpeak, right? We have ThinkSpeak, etc. Any other IoT cloud platforms you heard about apart from this, or which you have used? Okay. Maven, okay. Cisco Cloud, Ronak says, okay. Cisco Cloud Platform also can be used. No problem. So I'll just quickly show you the architecture. This may not be something which is important as of now, but in general, as a programmer, it's good to know what is the architecture of a operating system, right? So if you see here from the bottom up, right? In the bottom, you can see microcontrollers. So microcontrollers, to drive the microcontrollers, use something called as SDKs. So can somebody tell me what is the full form of SDK? What does SDK stand for? RAM, yeah, RAM says software development kit. So it's a software development kit which is used to build applications for different microcontrollers. So native SDK, for example, STM32Cube, TI SDK, Specify SDK is used to communicate with is used to basically build the Mongoose OS libraries and Mongoose OS core. So I will show the architecture briefly, then we can move on to the coding part. So what this slide tells is that we have several APIs and libraries available which can be used to build embedded applications. For example, you have support for timers, you have support for networking, you have support for OTA, etc. Okay, so what does OTA stand for? OTA, what does it mean? So when let's say you're using an Android phone, right? You get an update, OTA update pop-up comes. What does OTA stand for? Over the air update. True, Ronak. Yeah, so Ronak says it's over the air update. So firmware, right? Firmware which is or the program which is running on a microcontroller, you should be able to update remotely. For example, there could be security issues. If there are security issues, you need to update the software. The software update should be happening over the air wirelessly, right? Remotely, you should be able to do it. So this is the architecture of MOS. So for now, I would say this is not very important, but just be aware that Mongoose OS supports several basically functionality, including timers, events, cloud support, over-the-air updates, etc. It has support for integration with the cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And protocols like HTTP, MQTT, etc. are also supported, including Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and Bluetooth communication. Now, let's have a look at the development setup. So before I show you the development setup, let me open the page for Mongoose OS. So you can search for Mongoose OS in Google, for example. So I hope my browser is visible. So you can search for Mongoose OS in Google. It shows up a link called as mongoose-os.com. So you click on it. It shows the home page of Mongoose OS, and there are several products available in their website. We're going to use the Mongoose OS framework to build IoT applications. Let me click on this Mongoose OS, learn more. Okay, so there is an overview about what is Mongoose OS. It's a IoT firmware development framework, and there are several MCUs supported. Cloud integration is there, and so on. So typically you'll find a developer section here. And here you can see downloads and docs. And it has a good set of documentation which you can follow to set up and install the tools required to build IoT application using Mongoose. All right, so we'll share all these links to you. So if you want to basically try things on your own, maybe later, you can have a look at it. The steps required to set up Mongoose OS is given here. So we need to download some applications and tools. For example, on Windows and Linux, the steps are different. So there is a file called as mos.exe for Windows. If you're going to use Windows, you click on this link, download it, that's it, done. So setting up Mongoose OS is very easy. Just click on a link. I'm going to click on this link, Mongoose OS. Maybe I'll save it somewhere in a drive, C:, may create a directory mos. That's it, save. Right? Very simple. So setting up Mongoose is very simple. Just download a file, we are done. That's it. The next step is how to build the application. These are the steps which you need to follow. So you need to download and install the MOS tool, which I have already done. You can also do it. Then we have to understand how to use the interface. So I'll show you the user interface, how it looks like, etc. Then we'll build a very simple application called as Blinky application. Typically, a Blinky application is an application which will blink an LED, right, to start off with. And we'll see how to basically compile the program. Compiling the program is called as building the firmware. Then we'll flash the firmware into the device and check the output. So this hardly will take 5 minutes to do. That's the advantage of using MOS. To just build a very simple application and run it, it will not take more than 5 minutes. That's why we have chosen this platform. In between, if you have any questions, you can ask. So I'll give control to Adil, who is the co-presenter here. Adil, you are there? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Mubin.
make you a presenter now, Adil. Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
You can share your screen. Okay.
Fine.
So you can show how to basically, you can talk about the MOS interface. Then
Fine.
you can maybe show the Blinky application, build and run it.
Fine. Mubin?
You can share your screen, Adil. Yeah.
I didn't get the interface yet. 1 minute.
Okay.
Have you enabled it? Yeah, I got it now. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Mubin, the assumption is my screen is visible, and my internet it has already gone slow now, I think. I hope you're able to see the screen.
Not yet.
Not yet? It's just a desktop, it's visible now.
No, it's coming up now.
Yeah, fine. I'm opening my terminal now. I hope it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible. You can be very slow, I would suggest.
Yeah, fine. And if you feel that I'm going fast, please do stop me. So let me type the command now. In my system, I already have installed MOS.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we have already done the installation to save time here. There is a command called as MOS, which you have to install. It's already installed. So we can see the.
Yeah, so my system is Linux, So it's almost similar in Windows also. In case of Windows, you're going to use an exe file. You're going to double click it. So I'm going to run mouse here. I'm going to press enter. 1 minute, it's already been used, it seems. Let me just check it out. 1 minute, let me check it out. So okay, there are so many zombies up here. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, fine. So let me just type it. Yeah, is it visible, Mubin, now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Fine. So guys, this is the IDE setup of mouse. In fact, it's a web browser here. In case of Windows, it will be a GUI which will be opened. So it's a very simple setup. So this is for the port. If you observe here, whatever serial port you have, it will be displayed here. Currently, I have connected my board, and I would like to show you that. So this is the board I have, and it's an ESP8266 board. Mubin, I hope it's visible.
Yes, it's visible.
That's
so
a
this
board
is the Node
I have
MCU
here.
ESP8266 board. Okay, we are connected it through USB.
Yeah.
So that we can program it.
Yeah. So, and that connection is shown here already. You can see here it's TTY slash TTY USB 0. And then the next most important thing is we need to select our board. You can see so many different boards here. And I have selected ESP8266. I'm sorry, it's some noise in my road, I think, in my street.
No problem, continue.
Yeah, fine. So it's ESP8266 here. Then this is the output window. Whatever actions we take, it's going to be displayed here. And this is the target board output. Anything which happens on the target board will be displayed here. Fine. So as Mubin already told, first thing is we need to make sure we have to install all these things. And the first thing we would like to do is we need to create a project, and that happens with a clone command. So let me show you that. So the clone command is something like this. Is it visible, Mubin?
Maybe you can copy the command in Notepad and show.
Yeah, I'll copy that. So I'll copy this. Let me just open. Fine. Mubin, I'm assuming that you will interrupt me if you don't get it, or else I just have to keep on asking you.
You can give a space and the project name.
Fine. So this is the command mouse.
Given after.
Yeah. This is the command mouse, and we need to clone. This is from this GitHub website. So in fact, if you see here, so this is the demo-js. So by default, it is Node.js code, as Mubin said. After this, we need to give the application name. For example, if I give app1, it's going to create. It's going to create. I'm getting some echo. Yeah, someone is enabled the mic. Someone has enabled the mic, I think. Yeah, fine. Yeah. So that's the name of the app. You can give any name here, in fact. So let me copy this. And
Adil, can I interrupt?
type it here. Yeah. Yes,
can
Mubin.
you show that?
Oh, okay, fine.
Can you show the
command? Yeah.
And so folks, this is the command to clone a project. I hope you know what is cloning mean, right? If you use GitHub, we can download a sample code. So this command will download a sample project. We can download a sample project and modify it. rather than building from scratch. You can proceed on.
Yeah. So I've already copied it. Let me just paste it here, and I am pressing an enter. So as soon as I press enter, you can see it says it doesn't exist. It's going to clone it now. Yeah, it's done. And if you observe here, it already it changed the directory to application1, which we have created now. Fine. So that's about cloning a sample application. The next step is building. Now, build may take some time.
Can you show the folder?
Okay, yeah, fine. So I'll just come to source codes. You can see here, this is the folder which is created.
Go to that folder.
Pardon me?
Can you go inside?
The contents? Yeah, fine.
Yeah. So here you can see we have a sample code downloaded. The sample code is downloaded inside fs directory. Can you navigate?
Yeah, done.
In fs, there is a file init.js, similar to your main.c file in C. So init.js contains the default code. So this is a JavaScript file. Maybe you can open this JavaScript file. Adil, just double click and open.
Yeah, opened.
We see some predefined code here, right? We are not going to use this. Maybe we will remove this code and paste our own code here. That's what you're going to do. So this code has some various basically examples of how to blink an LED, how to send data to the cloud, etc. So it's a boilerplate code. We'll remove this code and put a very simple code to blink an LED. That's what we're going to do. So maybe Adil, you can proceed.
Yeah, shall I replace it or shall I build the default one, Naveen?
You can replace this file. No? That's better.
Okay, fine. Let me open the a sample code here. What I have. Then let me come here. I have a sample code here. Let me open it. Copy this. It's a simple Blinky application. And I'll just select all and paste it, Control V. Yeah, Mobin, you want to talk about something, this code?
That's okay. So here in this application, if you see, it's a 5 to 10 line code, right? It's a very simple application. If you look at this application, we have a timer function. Timer, I hope all of you know what is a timer, right? Timer will repeatedly execute a function. That's what a timer is. Right now, don't worry about the code here. So in this basically timer code, every 2 seconds, maybe we can show the 2 second thing, Adil.
Yeah.
So every 2 seconds, timer will repeat. And every 2 seconds, we are toggling the LED. There is a function called as gpio.toggle, which will toggle the LED. So this code will run forever, and every 2 seconds, the LED will toggle. Now, LED pin configuration is basically defined inside board configuration. So whatever is the built-in LED, will use the built-in LED to basically toggle the LED. Right now, don't worry much about the code. Let's focus on whether it is building and running or not.
True, fine.
So you can proceed with the build and run step.
Okay, fine. So this may take some time, and this depends on the speed of the internet also. I hope it's going to be a bit fast here. So I'll just press enter here. Yeah, Mobin, you want to talk about something? How does this is happening? How these things are happening here?
Yeah, so if you look at the command, we are issuing a command called as mos build, right? It's similar to compile command, right? So here mos build will build the firmware. You're specifying which platform you want to build for. ESP8266 is the platform. So building the basically software not on your system, it uploads to the cloud actually. It's using the cloud platform to build it. After building it, it will download the firmware automatically to your system. So build is happening in the cloud. So we have to wait for some time for the build to complete. So once the build completes, we can flash the firmware using mos flash command. So all these things makes the development of an IoT application easy. The setup time is less, and because of the availability of APIs, the development time also is less. Anybody has any questions here?
Yeah, you may ask some questions here because it's going to take some time.
I think it's okay, Adil. You can show the already pre-built firmware. Can you show?
Fine. So shall I close this and open again one more time?
Which one? Okay.
This current running one. It's already running.
Okay. Maybe we'll wait for a minute or so.
Yeah. It shouldn't take much. It should be over now. The next one we'll do the other way.
Yeah. I think I have some questions. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, maybe you can answer this question. Yeah.
API keys means, okay, some questions are there here. Let me answer those questions. Ronak is asking, we can have the code in C, C++. Yeah, Ronak, we can have it in C, C++ also. Okay, that's possible. So the template code for C, C++ is also available. If you want, you can download that and modify it also. Sunita is asking, API keys means, sir. Okay, API keys. Okay, so what it means is, I hope you know what is an API, right? API stands for Application Programming Interface, which is nothing but another name for functions or web services, they call it. So keys are used for authentication, Sunita. For example, I want to use Google Cloud Service. If I want to use Google Cloud Service, then I have to create a login and I have to create an application key inside Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Cloud Platform. So that way what happens is that if you want to access the service, any service, like for example, you can use Google Maps, right? So these are services provided by Google. If you want to use Google Maps service, then you have to create a key telling that, okay, this key belongs to me and I can use that key from my mobile application to access that service. It's used for authentication. API keys are used for authentication so that only the person with the key can access that specific setup there on the cloud. It's a form of implementing security. API keys are a form of implementing security. Eugenia is telling, sir, it looks like difficult code compared to Arduino code. Maybe to begin with, you may see it's difficult, but once you compare the code with Arduino, it will be easier only. On a long run, it is going to look like easier, okay, because a lot of built-in functions are available. We will end up writing less amount of code here. Is there any program size limit? Program size limit depends upon the controller's RAM availability, right? So controllers basically ROM and RAM size. So there is no limit in terms of Mongoose OS. So whatever basically hardware you're using, that will be the limit for the program to run. Shahbaz is asking, any demerits of the system? Maybe you have several other basically operating systems, embedded operating systems like Contiki, etc. You can compare with them, right? So somehow or the other, there will be some demerits or the merits. But I would say it's relatively good operating system to start off with because OS is built in. For example, timer support is there, right? You can see. Then loop support, basically multiple basically functions you can run, etc. Threading support to some extent is there. Then
especially built for networking also.
Yeah, it's especially built for networking. A lot of networking capability is there, and so on. Ronak is asking, as a beginner, which development board kit should we buy at home and practice? So as a beginner, I would recommend you can use Node MCU ESP32 kit for IoT. Okay, so you can use the Node MCU ESP32 device. Plus, you may have to buy several other sensors. You'll have to buy additionally, like motion sensor, like motors, okay, LCDs, for example, that you may have to, and other sensors you have to build additionally from apart from the board. So Adil, maybe can switch to the pre-built one. That's better.
Okay, fine. I think I'll close this window. Yeah, I'll close this window and let me try to run it one more time. Let's see what happens. Do a Control C.
Pre-built you can use, right? Blinky you already
Yeah, I have already done it. Let me do that. So let me do cd dot
we have already
slash.
built it. We knew this issue can happen, right? Though
Yeah,
it can
yeah.
take time because for the internet. We already built it. We'll take the pre-built one.
Okay. So now let me do MOS
We can
flash.
Yeah, you can do a
Yeah.
flash. Yeah.
Assuming the build is over, let me just do a flash. There's a command to MOS flash. I hope it's visible, Mubin.
Yeah, it's enter. Did you press enter? Yeah,
Yeah, I'll press enter now. Yeah.
Announce Saturday's result. We'll announce the result. I'll share you the results. Definitely.
Yeah, it's done. Are you able to see the output?
Yeah, we are able to see the output.
Yeah, fine. So that's about a Blink application. Fine.
So it's a simple program which is going to blink an LED every interval, right? Interval can be set.
Yeah. You can change the intervals. Yeah. A sort of heartbeat
Maybe you
here.
can proceed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fine.
maybe you can
Let me
proceed with the
further.
next application.
Next application.
The next application.
Let me just do.
You want to give an overview?
Yeah, Mubin. It's on MQTT, based on MQTT, wherein we are going to send some message to the cloud. Like when we press the button, for example, I'll show you that. So there are two buttons here. One is a reset button here, and other one is a flash button. So this flash button can be used as a GPIO. So we are going to use this button as a button event. So whenever I'm going to press this button, it's going to increment a count, and this count will be sent to the cloud. And from the cloud, we can even control the state of the LED what we have. Are you there, Mubin?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, fine. So let me just change it. Let me just go to the next one. First, let's dump it and let's see the output. Then maybe you can summarize it, Mubin. And I have a small doubt here. The timer is already running. Anyhow, let's try it.
Okay.
So
you have to flash it
now,
again.
now I have to flash it again. Yeah, first let me flash it.
AWS thing, can you tell?
Okay, fine. So now the next important thing is, since this is going to be communicating with the cloud, it is very important we set some, we do some configuration here. In fact, there's a command from MOS which does that thing. So this is the command. It's like MOS AWS IoT setup. Okay, one single command which will make sure it completely configures the device what we use. Like, it's going to create the device in the cloud. I'll show you that. And then it's going to download the required libraries, which is going to be useful to communicate with the device and the cloud. And it's going to provide or provision as the interfacing mechanism, like I will be able to publish and I will be able to even subscribe. So it's a one single simple command, AWS IoT setup. And you may even specify the region because, okay, let me just switch and show you once if it's already there. Yeah, it's already up here. So friends, it is assumed that you're going to have an AWS account. There are some free tier accounts which you can try. and it has lots of services. So once you log in, this is the page we have. I've made sure I already logged in here. So these are the services which is available in Amazon Web Services. Lots of services available here. So the one what we are going to use currently is IoT Core. So this is what it is. So if I click on this, it's taking some time. Yeah. So there are many features here, in fact. So if you come to this manage, you can see the devices here. So this is what I was talking about. So this is a device. In fact, this is not a physical device. That's a point to be kept in mind. It's a virtual device. In fact, the board what we have in our table, it is going to link with this device what we have in the cloud. So it's like a sort of gateway. Okay, so this is created by what you call that command, in fact. So it's going to be done by this command, Moz AWS setup. Any questions? Maybe we can ask Mubin. Shall I press enter here?
Basically, there is some configuration required. So there is one command to configure the device so that it can connect to the AWS IoT cloud. In general, to connect to the platform, we need to run a command. That's what this command is. Just one command is good enough to basically get things set up, right? That one or two commands you need to run so that it can communicate with the cloud. You can show the command maybe one by one.
Yeah, fine. So I'm just trying to enter this command now. I'm going to just do the setup. So you can see here, it's getting all the things up here.
So you can
it's done.
Show the next command.
Yeah, fine. So it's set up already. Then let me do Moz flash once. Did I do the flash? I have a small question. Anyhow, let me do it one more time.
Wi-Fi is configured, right?
No, it's not yet configured. Let me configure it now.
Okay.
So the next thing is we need to configure the Wi-Fi. So this is the command. Let me copy this, in fact. And okay, sorry. So it doesn't work like that. One minute. So this is the command. Sorry, I didn't copy it. Copy it. So you can see there are certain fields. There's an option called as config set, which accepts certain parameters like the Wi-Fi station, if you have anything to configure, and access point. Okay, now currently I'm using my board as a station here. That's why it's true, and it's not used as an access point. Then the most important thing is station SSID. So your SSID and your password. So this is what you need to set to connect to internet. So let me copy this.
In simple terminology, it is just the Wi-Fi SSID and password. That's all. Okay. So
that's it.
We need to set the Wi-Fi SSID and password.
Okay. So let me press enter. So this is done here. In fact,
hotspot, is it on?
Yeah, hotspot is on. Okay, Wi-Fi station is connected, I think. Connected. Yeah.
Aman is asking question, how much time is it required to learn this completely? So basically in our at Emergy, we provide a full-fledged IoT course which runs for 6 months, wherein we cover subjects like C programming, Arduino programming, and Python programming to program the gateway. Then we talk about IoT gateway and Linux internals, then IoT cloud platform, security, performance, etc. So we teach 7-8 basically subjects in the course which runs for 6 months. So that is a job-oriented program. So wherein after basically or during the course, we send you to placements, or we send you to companies which look for IoT engineers or embedded engineers, and you should be able to get a good job in as a fresh engineer. So that is the target audience we look for. So people who are looking for a job in the field of IoT, we train them for 6 months on several subjects, and we send them for placements. The course duration is 6 months for freshers.
It's not connecting, Mubin.
Okay.
Let me check. Connected, it says.
That's online now. No, online is false, it shows.
It's saying false. It says not connected with the cloud. It's not able to connect to the cloud.
Can you refresh?
I'll just refresh. Sorry, some dog barking there.
It says connected to IoT console. Can you do a hash?
That's okay. No, actually, it's not connected, I think. It's a default code, in fact, Mubin. So when I press the button, it says not connected.
You press the reset button. You're pressing.
No, let me press a reset and try once, okay?
Yeah, you can do a reset. Sir, is virtual classes as effective as compared to the old classes? So this is virtual classes we are doing because we have the current basically limitation, right? We cannot provide on-premise classes. So once basically this lockdown is and the COVID-19 thing, we come out of this problem and classes will resume on-premise only. Meanwhile, we will try to conduct virtual classes. That's the idea.
Mubin, I think I would better try this code once.
Okay.
1 minute.
Sahil, maybe you can give control to me. I just announced the result for yesterday's last week's quiz.
Fine.
I will
Yeah.
share my screen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to announce the winners for the workshop. Okay. Hope you can see my screen, Adil.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So top
I'll pause for some
performers.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to upload the code. Yeah.
You can mute. Yeah. So winner 1 for April 11th, how to build an excellent resume of an entry-level embedded system and IoT engineer. We have Bhakti, who is the first winner. Okay, so congratulations, Bhakti, for getting a prize and performing well in the workshop. Second, we have Deertika Shalini Reddy. Congratulations, Deepika. Third, we have Rinifa Pepin. Okay, she's already one of our students doing a course at Emergy. And we have one more winner, Saurabh Kumar. So these are the winners for the quiz we conducted last week. So congratulations to all of you. We have one more, Satya Prakash P. Okay, so we have 5 winners. I'll just scroll up. We have Bhakti. We have Deertika. We have Rinifa. She's our student. We have Saurabh Kumar. And the final winner is Satya Prakash P. So congratulations to all of you. So Adil, are you there?
Yes, Mubin.
Yeah.
Yes, Mubin.
Any
1
problem?
minute. Yeah, I have just updated the code. Let me let me first do the setup here, then we can talk about it.
All right.
Best.
So maybe I'll
That
summarize
would be better,
what
I think.
we have done so far.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just summarize what we did so that we don't forget what we did. So we have installed MOS as a tool, and we wrote a program, a JavaScript program, right?
Yeah.
And then we build the program, and then we flashed it. So this program we built using a command called as MOS build, and we flashed the program using MOS flash.
MOS flash. Yeah.
That's what it is. Now for the second case, IoT use case, when I talk about the IoT use case, we have this device, right? This device wants to communicate with the cloud. And this communication happens using MQTT protocol. But to do that, we used AWS IoT Cloud Platform. So here we need to configure AWS, which is already done, right? Then we need to basically set up the device. So this part is also done. So when you run the application, it will send data to the cloud, and it will receive data from the cloud using something called as MQTT PubSub protocol. The code is already written for that, so we should be able to see whether the code runs now.
Yeah. Fine, Mubin. Mubin, are you there?
I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, Mubin, fast because I don't know it's up. At least I'll show you the output once.
Okay.
Yeah. And then maybe you can summarize it. Yeah. Please show the screen, no? Yeah. Fine. So friends, you can see, actually, I'll just show you the screen. Webcam. Okay, this webcam also is stopped. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute.
So basically, Adil is using his phone's camera to show the output.
Yeah. Fine. So is it visible now, Mubin?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. So 1 minute. Let me just see here. When I press a key, you can see the count here. You can observe the count. It's already 9 because I just now tried it. So I press it one more time. It becomes 10, 11, and you can see this in our cloud, it gets updated here. See here? Now again, I press 1 minute. Let me also minimize this so that it's visible for you. So I press again. See, 12, 13. So this is from the device to the cloud. The communication happens is device to the cloud. Same way, what we can do is we can make it from the cloud to the device. So let me copy this and let me
sending data from the device to the cloud is happening through MQTT publish. Now we can send data from cloud back to the device by publishing data from AWS to the device by specifying a publish message. Here you can see we are creating a variable called as state of the LED to be 0 or 1. You can set. LED is on.
So
now.
when I publish, I'll just publish. Okay, I think it's a syncing circuit. Let me just make it as 1. You can see the LED goes off. Is it updated, Mubin?
Yeah, it's updated.
Yeah, I'll just make it one more time on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's toggling.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, it's actually I'm switching it on and off.
All right. Yeah. So thanks, Adil.
So yeah, that's it, Mobin. In fact, yeah.
So hope we are able to demonstrate a simple application by using Mongoose OS and AWS IoT Cloud. So due to time limitation, we cannot basically proceed further, but hope we got a fair idea about how to start building application using Mongoose. And we also basically configured the AWS IoT Cloud platform using MOS commands, which was pretty easy. You just have to run 1 or 2 commands, then the setup is done. Before doing this, we have already created a user in AWS IoT platform, and we have installed AWS CLI, which we didn't show you because it's something which has to be done prior to it. But what we are trying to tell you is that building IoT applications is not very difficult to start up with. But this is just the beginning point. I would say this is just the starting point, right? So we are at the starting point, I would say. So the course which we deliver is called as ECEP, or Emergency Certified Embedded Professional, ECIP for IoT, called as Emergency Certified IoT Professional course. In this course, you will be learning more about how to write efficient programs as a software engineer, be it using C or Python. So Python and C is commonly used to develop embedded as well as IoT applications. So we learn about how to program the hardware. So we'll be using Node MCU hardware to build IoT applications. So in our case, like we have Arduino device, plus we have Raspberry Pi device. In Arduino, we will write C programs. In Raspberry Pi, we will be using Python programs. We can also write programs using MOS plus JavaScript also. So you'll be learning about all these concepts when you enroll for the ECIP course. The idea is you get a big picture of the IoT architecture. You learn how to basically write embedded applications. You learn how to configure the cloud. You learn how to basically implement network communication using protocols like HTTP, COAP, MQTT, etc. You'll also learn about important concepts like REST API and cloud configuration as part of the course. You guys, if you have any questions, you can let me know. Otherwise, we are done for the workshop. Yeah, Bhargav says we can use Lua script also. Yes, Lua is also a possibility. You can use Lua to write embedded IoT applications as well. So I'll open up for questions. If you have any questions, you let me know. Okay, Ronak is asking a question. What are the current issues faced in field of IoT, especially security, and any new developments in this field? So I would say in terms of basically IoT, one of the major challenges we face with respect to productization. Right? So a lot of startups are basically inclined towards building IoT applications. But many of the startups are failing because they are failing to productize. They're able to build a prototype. Okay. They're able to build prototype. Okay. So people think it's easy to build IoT applications. And in fact, building the prototype is not challenging, but productizing is a completely beast and altogether. Because if you look at the IoT solution, we need to basically have people with skill set in different areas, people who know how to develop embedded systems, people who know how to basically configure the cloud, people who know how to basically scale the applications, how to improve the performance. Then we should have basically skilled engineers who can develop web applications and mobile applications. We should have people who are familiar with handling data loads, right? If we talk about network, basically throughput, if users are in the scale of few tens of thousands or few millions, then your application may not scale very easily. So these are some of the challenges which people face in developing IoT applications. Security is also basically a concern because it's in terms of basically IoT devices. If there is a security vulnerability, one of the challenges we face is that it can get compromised easily and it's not easy to update the software. Sajay Kumar asking a question, can I use Keel application for IoT projects? I think it should be possible, Ajay Kumar. There are a lot of basically IDs available. You can use, I think, Keel also to build IoT applications. So Keel is just an ID. Any other question you have? Okay. So if you have more questions, you can send us an email, not a problem. Okay, so you can send an email to our email ID already shared. You can reply to us. Thank you all for attending the session. Hope you enjoyed the session. You learned how to build an IoT application using Mongoose OS. If you have further doubts, you can contact us. Thank you.